Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. So, the appointed hour has come, 1 p.m. according to their own words, or rather, it wasn't 1 p.m. exactly. It was 10, 10, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's written here somewhere. It's blah, blah, blah. June 2022, Diablo 4 quarterly update, 10 a.m. PDT. Where we're going to learn about some new stuff. So hopefully it will be here. Hopefully they did not lie to us. Hopefully they told us the truth. Egg on my face. I get you guys all gathered here, and they're just like, yeah, it's not coming out for like a little while. Yeah, maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow, guys. I don't know. Getting a lot of dropped frames. Why am I getting so many dropped frames? All I'm doing is streaming a web page. It's like 50% dropped frames according to my calculator. Frames missed due to rendering lag, 0. Skipped frames due to encoding lag, 0. Dropped frames due to network total data output bitrate. Apparently my network is terrible. Like downloading in the background or something. Don't download in the background. Well, it's a really tight rope, Chungus. That's kind of the thing. So, and what it comes down to is basically this. If the game is already created before the monetization comes in, and you have a set amount of stash space that you were given at the beginning, most people are more than happy to purchase more stash space from the original value, right? But here's the thing. The thing is that it doesn't necessarily mean, like, if they provide you with additional stash space, like right off the bat, how do you know what the original stash space was before they cut it up and divvied it into all of the things? You know what I mean? How do you know what it was before they divvied it all up? So I have a link, but the link does not work at this particular time. It just says error 404. But this is the link that they provided. So when I went to Twitter, they actually have the Necromancer up here. It says, welcome to the campfire. We have a link. The link doesn't work. Let's try reloading the link. All right, here we go. All right, so the link is live, boys. All right, let's get this show on the road, shall we? Diablo 4 quarterly update, June 2022. You know what? Before I get started, since I am having a little bit of network issues, let me make sure that my stream is not, like, terrible sounding. Give me just 1 second. No, it seems fine. Okay, well, I mean, it seems fine. It seems fine. Seems fine. It seems fine. It seems fine. All right, so Diablo 4 quarterly update for June 2022. This one came out today. Obviously, we are here on the dawn of a new age. Hello and welcome to the mid-year Diablo 4 quarterly update. We hope you enjoyed last quarter's behind-the-scenes look at the art of Sanctuary and its dungeons. that blog and our previous updates are available here if you missed out. I'd also like to take a moment to congratulate Diablo Immortal on its launch. The Immortal team worked incredibly hard to bring Diablo to life on mobile, and it's exciting to have another way to enjoy Diablo. They just had to mention Immortal, didn't they? They just had to mention it. Today we're going to look at the final launch class, the Necromancer. Now that it's been announced on the big screen, we can jump into some of the grittier details and mechanics of the class. You can think of this blog as a companion to that announcement, with our lead class designer, Adam Jackson, doing a deep dive into the core playstyles of the Necromancer, some of its skills, and the unique class mechanic, Book of the Dead. We'll also look at the selection of incredible armor and weapons the Necromancer can use. Diablo IV is committed to the principle of player choice. It shapes how we approach many of our systems, from character customization to the destiny and layout of our open world, to the design of our classes and builds. As you'll see below, the Book of the Dead focuses on this idea of choice and what kind of Necromancer you want to be. We hope you enjoy this update and look forward to your thoughts and reactions. Later this year, you can expect to hear more about how we plan to support Diablo IV after the launch, including our plans for seasons. We're grateful to have you with us on this journey. Thank you for playing the games we make. So this is the Necromancer trailer. I think I've already checked this out, but for the sake of the video, let's go ahead and watch it. I do believe it's in 4K, even though you guys are only going to see it in 1080p, because that's what I'm streaming in.
I speak now to those who heed a darker call. Those bold enough to cross the line of sin for deeper knowledge, who follow an unquenchable yearning, born of blood and bone, to unlock the forbidden secrets and foulest black rituals, calling forth life from death. My family, my soul. To truly embrace this power, you must take it into the world. You will be shunned, scorned, marked as a living sacrifice to this profane knowledge. You will be a priest of Rathma, a necromancer. Not confront the darkness alone. We are the speakers of the dead, and the dead have no mercy.
Alright, so there is the trailer. If you hadn't seen that already, I was going to play it again for you guys. There's a lot of stuff inside that trailer to kind of take away. The golem was there. If you guys didn't notice, the golem from Diablo 3 was there. Not really a good sign. They do have the corpse explosion, which was nice, and the skeletons look cool. Who knows? Greetings, heroes of Sanctuary. Today, we are thrilled to announce that a fan favorite, the Necromancer, is once again returning to slay and subjugate their enemies with necrotic magics. We had a blast working on this iconic class, and we can't wait to get it into your hands. We know that Necromancer has a storied history in our franchise, and we are taking a lot of care to give players an experience that lives up to that hype. We also spent a considerable amount of time making sure that the fans of Diablo II, Diablo III, and Diablo Immortal versions of the Necromancer see something familiar with what we have to offer, while at the same time creating something unique for Diablo IV. Read on to see what the Necromancer is all about. That's a little scary. The Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and Diablo Immortal, like all mashed together like some sort of mashed potatoes. Class features. The Necromancer has two different types of resources that they use, Essence and Corpses. Essence is their primary resource, which restores itself automatically at a slow rate. It's pretty much the same as Diablo 3. Using basic skills on the Necromancer will also grant Essence, same as Diablo 3, allowing them to cast their skills more often. Corpses, on the other hand, are leftover remains of enemies who die near the Necromancer. These remains can be used to summon skeletal minions or to power various other skills, such as Corpse Explosion. In addition to appearing when enemies are killed near the Necromancer, corpses can also be generated via various effects, giving you additional control over how often you want to interact with them. While there will be plenty of corpses at a baseline level, we're aware that some players will want to lean into this resource, and as a result, we have included plenty of options to ensure they are not left wanting. As far as weapons and other unique gear, Necromancers use swords, daggers, wands, focuses, and shields. In addition to these, they are also the only class that can use scythes. I don't necessarily like the way that Diablo 3 Necromancer worked. I don't. The Diablo 2 Necromancer is superior to the Diablo 3 Necromancer in every single way, and I would like to see the Diablo 2 Necromancer be at the forefront of the way this character is built, and so that's what I'm hoping for. Looks like we have another video here, so let's take a look at this one. Make sure we're at least 1080p. All right. Well, all right. All right. I like the armor, the way the armors look. The armors are pretty cool. I'm not necessarily a big fan of the whole scythe thing. The D2 Necromancer didn't really lean into the scythe very much. That was a Diablo 3 thing. But it could be interesting. I don't know. Additionally, what self-respecting necromancer would be running around the world of Sanctuary without curses? We're happy to say that you will be able to put these nasty debuffs on your enemies to your heart's content, with skills like Decrepify and Iron Maiden making a return. Playstyles. The Necromancer has 4 high-level playstyles that players can choose between. These playstyles are Bone, Darkness, Blood, and the Army. Bone skills are relatively physical in nature and thus benefit more heavily from effects such as Critical Strike. These bone skills also benefit from having and spending large amounts of essence. Bone skills are not supposed to be physical in nature. They're supposed to be magical in nature. I don't understand why you would even deign to say they're physical in nature, you poopy poopos. As they have various effects that can cause each other their individual attacks to be even more powerful. Bone Spirit is back in Diablo IV and now has a unique twist that exemplifies what bone skills are all about. Bone Spirit not only has a cooldown, but also consumes all essence the player currently has. Once cast, a Spirit of Bone is conjured that seeks out the nearest enemy. Upon reaching them, the spirit will explode, dealing a high amount of damage to the target and all of other enemies in the area. This damage is increased by a certain percentage per point of essence spent, meaning that players who spend the maximum amount of essence will deal a significant amount of damage to enemies hit. This skill can also be upgraded so that when it critically strikes, its cooldown is significantly reduced, meaning that players who commit to generating lots of essence while also having high critical strike chance will get a lot of damage from this skill. I'm already getting really strong Diablo 3 vibes from the way that they're explaining the skills. Another bone skill that necromancers will have access to is Bone Prison. When the player casts Bone Prison, they slam their weapon into the ground, calling forth a circular wall of bone to surround the targeted enemy or area. Enemies cannot move through this space while the Bone Prison persists, which makes it incredibly versatile and able to combine with many other skills, even those that are not themed around bone. Bone Prison is great for blocking off hallways, trapping groups of enemies inside to set them up for an AoE attack, or for simply sectioning off a group of enemies to deal with later while you handle priority targets. That was really short. Extremely short video. Darkness. Darkness skills use shadow magic to overwhelm their enemies. These kind of attacks tend to be damage over time based or attack multiple times in a short window, with various benefits and rewards being granted for damaging enemies in this way. Darkness skills also tend to have various debuffs and crowd control elements so that they can keep their enemies at bay while they die a slow and painful death. Decompose, a basic darkness skill that allows you to channel dark magic onto enemies, dealing damage to them while also generating essence, unlike other basic skills. Decompose also periodically summon corpses, making it much easier to ensure that you have a steady supply on hand for use in summoning skeletons. Another darkness skill is Blight. Blight launches a ball of dark energy in a direction upon hitting an enemy or expiring. It deals an explosion of damage while leaving behind a defiled area, dealing periodic damage to enemies inside over time. The skill deals high amount of damage to enemies who are standing in place, whether that's due to fighting your undead minions or being contained via other skills like Bone Prison. I got some short clips here, don't they? I swear from the sound effects, all I could immediately think was it sounded like a like a strafe attack from an Amazon, like just from the sound effects. Blood. Necromancers can use the power of blood magic to siphon the life from their enemies. Not only do these skills tend to have defensive-orientated benefits, they also have many ways to turn that defense into offense for the player, empowering them and rewarding them for having large amounts of maximum health, as well as keeping their current health total high. Blood Surge draws a small amount of blood from nearby enemies to the Necromancer, then expels a blood nova, dealing damage near the player's location. The damage of the blood nova is increased per enemy drained, which incentivizes you to be in the middle of the pack of enemies for maximum effect. Another blood skill is Blood Mist. Upon activation, the Necromancer disperses into a bloody mist, becoming temporarily immune to all damage while draining the life of any nearby enemies that they pass through. This is a universally powerful defense skill that can give you the time you need to regroup in those dire moments where you are becoming overwhelmed. Let's take a look at that one more time, shall we? Such short little clips. The Army, the one that I'd be interested in anyway. As you would expect, necromancers can summon the undead to do their bidding. We also allow players to specialize into empowering their army as much as possible, which includes various kinds of skeletons as well as the classic golem. One advantage to this method of playing is that it can easily incorporate the benefits of bone, darkness, or blood skills, allowing you to have a great deal of customization to how you want to interact with your army. As an example, we believe it will be perfectly viable to have player pursue a darkness-themed army build with the Decompose as their basic skill to generate corpses, as there is an obvious synergy there. However, if the player wishes to generate corpses via another means, they can just as easily take a nostalgia trip to the year 2000 and just chuck bone spears at their enemies from a distance, while opting for all the bone skill synergies that Necromancer has to offer. We went through a lot of iteration on how we want the experience of summoning the undead to feel for the player, and how much of their skill bar should be dedicated to this part of the class. To that end, we've come up with what we feel is the best possible version to ensure that players have as much customization as possible over not only the army itself, but also which other skills they want to use to support their unique playstyle. If a player wants to have a maximum number of summoned units possible, then they will only have to dedicate 2 buttons to their skill bar, one raising skeletons and the other for their golem. The Raise Skeleton button is a one-stop shop to raise all the different skeletons a player can summon, and the Golem button is used to command the Golem to use a unique effect that is dependent on the type of Golem that is currently active. With this setup, we found a great balance between having the necessary tools for raising and commanding a Necromancer army, while also leaving room for player expression in what additional skills they want to put on their bar. If you guys are unaware, the golem in Diablo 3, that is literally the Diablo 3 golem, basically they had different modes, like you could make him bigger, he could attack harder. There was like a corpse golem that you would command into the group, and he would fall apart into a whole bunch of corpses so that you could use the corpses, for your spells or whatever. And I wasn't really a big fan of the whole special golem thing. And I really feel like they limited you on your army as well, and your army felt kind of transitory. Your skeletons would die and they would just come right back. It wasn't really a struggle like it was on the Necromancer, trying to maintain your army. Book of the Dead. Speaking of armies, what self-respecting Necromancer isn't wandering around with one? Well, actually, that might be you. While we absolutely have full support, the full support you would expect to fulfill all your undead summoning needs, We are also giving some love to players who want a more independent playstyle. Well, skeletal warriors, skeletal mages, golems. This is interesting. I wonder what this is exactly. Cue the Book of the Dead, the Necromancer's unique class mechanic right from the moment you log in. You will start with an extra skill on your bar, Raise Skeleton. With this button, you will immediately be able to raise undead warriors to fight by your side. In addition to this, you will have access to the Book of the Dead. This is a space where you can customize your army, or lack thereof, with increasing options as you level your character. There are 3 customizable buttons or summons in this space: skeletal warriors, skeletal mages, and the golem. Each summon also has one of 3 specializations that you can choose from. As an example, you can have your skeletal warriors be skirmishers, defenders, or reapers. Skirmishers are more standard warrior but have increased damage and reduced health. Defenders have bonus health, and reapers have slower attacks, deal damage in AoE in front of them, and have a special line of attack that deals a high amount of damage. In addition to this, each specialized unit in the army has unique upgrades available to them, giving you even more customization over how each unit in the army functions in their overall playstyle. These units and upgrades will have synergies with various playstyles mentioned above, as well as add other potential ways to play. Now that's interesting. So being able to customize your skeletons or your skeleton mages definitely does seem interesting. That seems pretty cool. I've always, kind of wanted that for Diablo 2, just like the ability to be like, okay, this skeleton's going to be, more tanky, or this skeleton's going to do more damage or whatever, Even have, like, control your army, so there's, like, frontline units and backline units. That'd be pretty cool. So here we have one right here. We've got the skirmishers, defenders, and reapers. In addition to all this customization, we have also added the ability for players to sacrifice different components of their army for personal benefits. Next to each unit type in the Book of Dead is an extra option to sacrifice the ability to summon that unit in exchange for a personal permanent buff. These buffs are carefully designed and placed so that players can mix and match, having none, some, or all of the possible summon units while still having relevant options to enhance their build. Our goal with this system is that there should be something for everyone to be excited about. There are relevant, powerful options to choose from, whether players want to play with the full army, part of the army, or even for those who wish to forgo their army completely and play solo. We've had a blast playing with this system so far, and we're excited to see the various combinations that you all will come up with to push your necromancers to the next level. Final thoughts. We're so excited to be able to bring Necromancer to Diablo 4, and we can't wait to get it into your hands. Whether you're a veteran player who put in thousands of hours over many years, or a new adventurer in the world of Sanctuary, we hope you will have a lot of fun with what we've been able to create. As always, please leave us your feedback on what we've shown you so far. While we're confident that we're on the right track, we know that the best ideas and best games are created with input from the community. Thank you all so much for your patience and joining us on this epic journey through the world of Sanctuary. We promise it will be worth the wait. Adam Jackson, lead class designer. He wants some feedback right away. Make the character less like Diablo 3 and more like Diablo 2. The less like Diablo 3 you could make this character, the better. Diablo 3 Necromancer was by far the inferior Necromancer to Diablo 2. The Diablo 2 Necromancer was way better in just about every regard. And I think the only thing the Diablo 3 Necromancer had over the Diablo 2 Necromancer was literally the ability to make his own corpses. And honestly, that's not even really a positive in my opinion, because the whole fun of the Necromancer was getting your corpses, and then the corpses were extremely powerful. So when you use things like corpse explosion and whatnot, it was like, hey, I finally got a corpse, let's blow some stuff up. Whereas in Diablo 3, it's like, oh, here's 10,000 corpses. Do whatever you want with them. And guess what? They kind of suck. You can't really do anything with them anyway. So here's as many corpses as you want. I want the corpses to have power. I want them to be rare. I don't want them to be something that you can just summon at will. So definitely, if you're listening, Blizzard, which sometimes it feels like you actually are listening to my videos. Um, the least like Diablo 3's Necromancer you can make him, the better. Diablo 2's Necromancer is the one that people want. That's the reason why you got people to buy the expansion for Diablo 3 in the first place. They bought the expansion for Diablo 3 because you had the Necromancer in there. But the Necromancer that you gave them was not the good Necromancer. He was the Diablo 3 Necromancer, which is poopy. It's a poopy Necromancer. This Book of the Dead is promising. I actually do kind of like this idea, the ability to customize the army. That is interesting. Kind of interested in this. I want to see how this turns out. I'd like to get into the beta and play around with this kind of stuff so I can give feedback. I mean, if anybody can give good feedback, it would be me. Yeah, and I'm surprised they didn't call it the Necronomicon. They should have just called it the Necronomicon. Book of the Dead is another term for Necronomicon, by the way. So the Necronomicon is actually called the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead. So I guess they kind of did in a way. Well, Diablo 4, they said there's going to be PvP zones, much similar to the way that MMOs have PvP zones. So I'm assuming that it's actually going to have PvP. The odd thing about it is that when I was looking in the news article earlier, where was it? Yeah, here it is. But if vanquishing the hordes of demons with other players is not your preference, you may look for a more mortal opponent. Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred, forever looking for instigate a skirmish, has cursed specific areas of sanctuary, transforming them into fields of hatred. Here, his influence pits mortals versus mortal in designated PvP zones. But the thing that kind of bugged me here was it said you have to flag yourself hostile. It said, so if you give into Mephisto's temptation by marking yourself hostile, in my opinion, if you're going to make a zone specifically for PvP, you don't allow a flag. You specifically say, if you're in this zone, you're in the PvP zone. That's it. You're part of the battle. You don't put a flag with a PvP zone. You don't add the two together. You either have a flagging for PvP or you have a zone for PvP. You don't have both. It's stupid. It's really stupid to have both. Because then that means people are going to be running around the PvP zone and they're going to be not flagged for PvP. And that's always dumb. It should be very, very obvious that when you come into this zone, it automatically flags you. It should just pop up on the screen, and it should say, you have entered a PvP zone. If you remain, you will be flagged for PvP in, I don't know, 15 seconds or 30 seconds or something. And if you stay inside the PvP zone for 30 seconds, you're automatically flagged. It should not be a choice to flag yourself inside the PvP zone. Yeah, and the way that they explained it, the way that they're talking about it, makes it sound like it's a choice, and that's stupid. They need to fix that right away. PvP should be a yes or no equation. And if you're making a zone, that zone is the yes, and everything else is the no. So if you're in the zone, you should be part of the PvP. And what else can we go over here? The visuals looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Like some of these armors looked really cool. I'm not really sure about the bony white-skinned Necromancer, but with all the tattoos, I feel like they went a little nuts with like the tribal tattoos. Like it doesn't really look so much like a spooky like mage or something like that, but it looks more like a tribal, I don't know, like Native American like tattoo system. Like I think they went a little bit too far with the tattoos. The Necromancer armor though does look good. I'm not sure about the Necromancer being a female. These days, they always want to put freaking necromancers, or every single class has to be male, female, like gender bi. I don't even understand. Like, let a character be a character. Like the necromancer has a backstory, the sorceress has a backstory, the paladin has a backstory. Like, he is a character. He exists within the world, and you're playing that character. The character is not you. You're playing the character. I don't understand why they always have to have like every single way of making a character into like a specific way that you want it to be. Let the characters just be what they are. Like, they have a backstory. The necromancer has a backstory. He has books. Like, he's literally a real character within the Diablo verse. Like, stop trying to change him into weird things. And then I don't know what the hairstyle. The hairstyle looks pretty stupid in my opinion. I don't know, this like slick back kind of like reminds me of something I saw in like the 90s. Some of these armors did look really cool though. Not really 100% sure about the hairstyles. I feel like their hairstyles are like really weird and stupid looking. The armors look cool though. The tattoos look stupid. This armor, I don't even know what the hell's going on with this one. This one's crazy looking. Like, it's like, I guess it's an armor set because here's a picture of him with the set, and it's just like, I guess the whole set makes you look like your skin is missing and like your bones are sticking out, and you can see inside your body, which is pretty cool. I mean, it looks gruesome as all get out, that's for sure. And that one looks pretty cool too. I actually really like that one. Very dark, very grim. And then this one looks pretty cool too. I don't know what what this is, but it looks pretty cool. They did a good job with the armors. Not such a good job with the character itself. Like, I feel like the hairstyles and like the tattoos and whatnot don't really quite fit the Necromancer. I'm not really sure what they were going for there. But the armors look amazing. They did a really good job with the armors. This whole slick back side hair thing looks so freaking stupid. I don't even know. He's an old man. He's not a punk rocker from the 90s, okay? He's literally an old man who summons the dead. He's not a punk rock metal guy from the 90s. I feel like that's the direction they went with. They were like, all right, what punk rock metal band can we go with from the 90s? And they just pick like some punk rocker from the 90s and like model the Necromancer around him. Exactly. He looks like a punk rock metal character, not not a necromancer of like, ancient origins who summons forth the undead. He looks like some sort of modern character at this point, which doesn't even make any sense. This image looks so cool. The like the necromancer image here with like your standard necromancers that actually look like, skeletons, and your necromancer's up here and he actually looks like a necromancer. I don't know, the golems in the back there looks a little weird, but I mean, the only thing that's got me a little bit of hopeful here is where they literally called out Diablo 2. They literally called out Diablo 2 and they were like, we want to make him kind of like Diablo 2. So they literally said, we have also spent a considerable amount of time making sure that fans of Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and Diablo Immortal versions of the Necromancers see something familiar with what we have to offer. And I'm kind of scared with the whole Diablo 3 and Diablo Immortal thing. I would think that they would have learned their lessons by now and realized that the Diablo 3 version wasn't the greatest. The Diablo Immortal version is literally just a copy of the Diablo 3 version, so it's not even really that big of a deal. So it's pretty much just a combination of Diablo 2 and Diablo 3's version. And I'm interested to see. Okay, let me say that. I'm interested to see. I want to see. I wanna hop into the beta. I want to play the characters. I want to look at it. I want to examine it. I want to show it to you guys and talk about it with you all and have fun with it. But as of right now, like my leanings on this definitely lean more heavily toward a Diablo 3 style character than a Diablo 2 style character. Although this Book of the Dead does give me a little bit of hope. It does look kind of cool. And being able to customize the skeletons does seem like a very interesting thing. I mean, the art style is definitely decidedly not Diablo 3, which I do rather enjoy. The Diablo 3 art style is cartoony and it looks stupid, in my opinion. I think a lot of people agree with me on that as far as the Diablo 3 art style. And the Diablo 4 art style has definitely moved more toward a, Diablo 2-esque style, which I do very, very much enjoy. Not really sure. You could be absolutely certain they're going to be selling cosmetics. I will assure you with 99.9999999% assurity that there will be a shop, and inside that shop will be cosmetics. I don't know if there's going to be anything else, but I can guarantee you there's going to be cosmetics. Probably cosmetics out the wing wang. Any kind of cosmetics you could want, they're gonna heavily leverage the cosmetics in this game, like to the point of absurdity. I would almost guarantee it. In fact, you'll probably see a bunch of the cosmetics that are in Diablo Immortal. I bet you a lot of those cosmetics that were in Diablo Immortal were actually developed for Diablo 4, and they're probably just gonna port them over, or they already did port them over, basically. I mean, I'm kind of excited at this point to see what they have to offer. I'm also kind of dumbfounded that they didn't include the Paladin. I know for a fact that the Paladin and the Crusader both are very popular classes in both Diablo 3 and Diablo 2. And although I would definitely, in a heartbeat, pick a Paladin over a Crusader any day of the week, it seems kind of surprising that we don't have the Paladin in the lineup. It's also kind of interesting that when you look at the lineup for Diablo 4, it doesn't include any of the Diablo 3 classes. That's one of the things that I noticed. So the current lineup for the for Diablo is, where is it? It was right here somewhere. Here we go. The current lineup for the Diablo 4 is the Barbarian, which was in Diablo 2, and it was also in Diablo 3. Doesn't really count because it was in both games. The Druid was not in Diablo 3. It was only in Diablo 2. The Rogue was not in Diablo 3 or Diablo 2. It was only in Diablo 1. So we have a Diablo 1 character or class. We have a Diablo 2 class. We have a Diablo 2 class that also happens to be a Diablo 3 class. We have the Sorceress, which again is a throwback to Diablo 2. And then the Necromancer is also Diablo 2. Notice there's no Monk, there's no Wizard, there's no Crusader, there's no, what's the Witch Doctor? There's no Witch Doctor. They basically have cut out all of the Diablo 3 classes. The Barbarian just happens to be one of those classes that was also in Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 at the same time. The Necromancer also Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 at the same time. So the only two classes in Diablo 4 that are the same as Diablo 3 are the Barbarian and the Necromancer, but they also overlap with Diablo 2. It's also interesting to see them bring in the Rogue, which is of course the Diablo 1 character, and the Diablo 2 Mercenary. Obviously, if you're trying to figure out which one the Rogue belongs to, I would definitely say it more or less comes from Diablo 1, because even the mercenary that's in Diablo 2 is essentially just the rogue from Diablo 1. You could even say that it could technically be from Diablo 2 if you count the Blood Raven. It seems like they're going kind of like with a Blood Raven-esque sort of a situation with Rogue, because the Rogue from Diablo 1 did become Blood Raven in Diablo 2, and so we have an interesting situation there where we've got a character which it really has its roots from Diablo 1 and Diablo 2. So this is a little bit hopeful for me, because honestly, it's all Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 characters. And hopefully we do not see a Crusader. Hopefully we do not see a Witch Doctor. Hopefully we do not see a Monk. The further away we can get from Diablo 3, the better, in my opinion. And that's why I like the classes that they've chosen. The rogue is not strictly bows. She also uses daggers, apparently. She's kind of like a thief slash bow character from what I've seen. This is also really interesting, the couch co-op option. I'm excited to see couch co-op back. Couch co-op is something that I've always loved. So be excited about that, because you'll be able to go over your friend's house and you'll be able to log in on his, console, or on his, maybe even on a PC or whatever, and you'll be able to play together. Couch co-op is just a really fun thing when it comes to hack and slashes, and being able to go over to your buddy's house and kill Diablo, is really cool. When I was a kid, we did couch co-op all the time. There was like no end to the couch co-op that we did. GoldenEye 007. We did like a Mario Party. We did all sorts of crazy games. Football, basketball, baseball games. There was always some kind of game we were co-oping, whether it be battle tanks or especially the Nintendo 64 was great for that, because it had 4-player ports, and you could play up to 4 players. So that was really cool. I hope they do the couch co-op justice, because couch co-op is something I think a lot of people really enjoy, and to see it come back is great. And I think that's pretty much it. We've gone over pretty much everything here. That's a picture of the rogue, by the way, using like the Rain of Arrows skill or something along those lines. Well, the problem with Hellfire was it wasn't made by Diablo, or Blizzard North, rather. Hellfire was made by Sierra Entertainment, which was a pretty popular company around that time, but it was not exactly the best company. I mean, if you remember games that Sierra made like King's Quest and stuff like that. It wasn't made by Blizzard. That's why it plays like a Sierra game. I don't know if you've ever actually played a Sierra game, but Sierra games are pretty straightforward. They kind of all follow the same theme, and if you've never played a Sierra game before, let me tell you, you recognize immediately when you're playing a Sierra title. Let's see here. This is Sierra Entertainment Games: Leisure Suit Larry, King's Quest, Space Quest, Bequest, Phantasmagoria, Police Quest, King's Quest. They even had something to do with Crash. King's Quest 3. All the Leisure Suit games were part of theirs. Spyro was one of theirs. They did a lot of older games back in the day, like stuff that you may have played when you were younger. A whole lot of quests, yes. They did Caesar. They had a hand in Half-Life as well, the original Half-Life game. That's what I'm saying, is that because the monk was not ever officially part of the game, The monk didn't actually appear inside of the Diablo verse officially as part of the canon until Diablo 3. That's one of the reasons why you haven't seen anything to do with the monk. That's why the monk didn't have anything to do with Diablo 2, because Blizzard North didn't particularly like the Hellfire expansion, and they weren't going to include something that they didn't enjoy in the Diablo 2 universe. And Diablo 3, they were just kind of scratching for new classes. They didn't want to include the old classes, which I really don't understand. Like, if they really wanted to make Diablo 3 into an amazing game, they should have just included all the same classes. And as you can clearly see from Diablo 4, they're trying to distance themselves from Diablo 3 because they're not choosing any of the classes from Diablo 3. Now, with that being said, I fully expect them to include the Paladin at some point. I don't want to see the Crusader. I would much rather see the Paladin. But it may be the Crusader at some point. I really don't want to see the Crusader in the game at all. Like, it is by far the inferior version of the Paladin. I would take a Paladin over a Crusader any day of the week. The way the auras work, the way the skills work, the Paladin is just so much more fun and so much more enjoyable to play. Honestly, I think Monk and Witch Doctor are two of the least favored classes of the Diablo 3 verse, if I remember correctly. And like, there's pretty much no chance we're seeing a Witch Doctor because they didn't even include the Witch Doctor in Diablo Immortal, and I think the Monk is probably going to get left by the wayside too. I also am on edge about whether or not they're going to include the Crusader. I don't want to see the Crusader, and judging by their choices so far, the Barb, the Druid, the Rogue, and the Sorceress, I kind of feel like they're not going to choose the Crusader. Otherwise, we would have seen the Witch Doctor on here. Instead of the Sorceress, it would have been the Wizard. Instead of, the Druid, it would have been something else. I mean, they specifically chose the classes that were not Diablo 3 orientated. I don't know. I'm hopeful. I want to see some gameplay. I want to play it. I want to have some fun in a beta test. I want to like, if they're smart, they will give me access to the beta test. And I know that sounds kind of pompous and overconfident, but I've got more experience in the gaming genre than probably most of these developers have. And you know, so I literally spent my entire life gaming. More games than I can even count on my fingers and toes, and even if I included your fingers and toes, I still wouldn't even come close to the number of games that I've played and beaten. And if they want some real, honest feedback that will help them make the game better, they better put me in the beta test, because I will tell them straight up when something is stupid, and I will tell them when something is great and they should leave it in the game, and I'll tell them when something needs to be tweaked. But if I don't make it into the beta, well. Paragon. Um, have they said specifically that they had Paragon in this game? Let me go back to the news article here. I think they talked about that back in December, but they didn't actually like elaborate. I'm going to share some skill rank affixes, legendary unique items. Where's the Paragon? The Paragon board. So the Paragon board, that's right, I remember now. The Paragon board doesn't sound like the Paragon system from Diablo 3. The Paragon board looks very much like the Path of Exile board, which is not exactly a good thing, because the Path of Exile board is ridiculously complicated for no particular reason. And quite honestly, I never really enjoyed the Path of Exile giant board of doom. But basically, think about it like the Path of Exile board. If you've never played Path of Exile, you could probably go pick up Path of Exile. I believe it's free, and you could play around with the board, and you'll get an idea of exactly what I'm talking about. It's ridiculously complicated for no reason. It's also overwhelming to new players. When new players are first presented with the board, literally like smoke starts coming out of their ears, like because it's just stupidly complicated for no reason. I hope, quite honestly, that they abandon this particular setup, because I don't think this is new player friendly, and I think they're putting themselves in a corner by using this board. And what I mean by that is that anybody who's a brand new player who picks up this game and sees this board is going to be immediately turned off by the complexity of the game. They're not going to enjoy the over ridiculous complexity of the Paragon board. Just the same way that new players, when they get into Path of Exile, immediately get turned off by the Path of Exile board because it's just ridiculously complicated for no reason. Even like 20-year Diablo II veterans go into Path of Exile and will tell you the same thing, that it's just too complicated for no reason. I'm hoping that they change this or simplify it, or I don't really know, but the Paragon board does not seem like a good thing. Especially when they included normal tiles, magic tiles, rare tiles, legendary tiles. At this point, you're just making it more complicated. You're just making it more and more complicated. And not only that, but they talked about like rotating the board and then like adding more boards. So it's not just one board, it's multiple boards that you're going to link together in a sequence. And you're literally going to have to go through like multiple boards like a freaking goddamn maze. And they've got to understand that that kind of play is just overly complicated and stupid, and it's just going to turn people away from the game. This was back in December though, so who knows what kind of changes they've made since December 2021. I'm hoping that they change it quite considerably, because it's not a good thing to have an overly complicated system which makes people, literally like want to kill themselves. Anyway, I've talked long enough. It's already been an hour, and I don't really think there's much more to go over, unless you guys have some more questions. I'm really just going off of the articles though that they've posted here. Like, there's really not a lot so far. We've got the December quarterly update. Then we had the March quarterly update, which was specifically around graphics. It was going over like how the game looked, and I was actually really impressed with the March quarterly update because they showed us, that the game's not going to look like Diablo 3, and I think that was the main purpose of the March quarterly update. They're like, "Yep, we're idiots. Diablo 3 looked like dirt. Here's Diablo 4. Doesn't look like Diablo 3," and that's literally what the March quarterly update was going over. And then, of course, the June one is on the Necromancer, which is interesting. I'd like to see them go over all the classes eventually, but I mean, they've already introduced them all for the launch of the game. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos. I just got off a night shift, and I'm still super tired, so I'm probably going to go take a nap. As always, thanks for watching, and keep watching.